Hi everyone, it's good to have you back. I know many of you have been checking updates online, watching the news closely, or even looking at your bank accounts more often than usual, and I completely understand why. Over the past few weeks, there has been a lot of talk everywhere about possible payments, rebates, and new types of financial help. Among all of that noise, one number keeps popping up more than anything else: $2,000. It's become the question that keeps coming back. Are we really getting that $2,000 people keep talking about? If you've been wondering the same thing, you're not alone. Now, the short answer is that something is being discussed, something is being worked on behind the scenes, and yes, several officials have openly mentioned a new relief idea. But the full story is not quite as simple as what's being shared online. The headlines, the social media posts, and the short video clips don't tell you the whole truth. And that missing information is exactly why so many people feel confused. So in today's breakdown, I want to guide you through what's real, what's rumor, what's being debated in Washington, and why, despite all the online talk, nothing is arriving this year. And as you'll hear later, the timing has far more to do with strategy than with processing delays or the IRS. Let's start from the beginning so everything fits together clearly. Many of you have probably noticed how quickly financial news spreads online. In the last few days alone, posts about a supposed $2,000 payment have gone viral on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. People have shared screenshots, timelines, and insider claims, many of which look legitimate at first glance. With living costs climbing and budgets feeling tighter for most households, it's natural for these posts to gain traction. What makes this tricky is that a lot of these posts mix a small piece of real information with a lot of assumptions. Someone hears that Congress is discussing relief, they turn it into payments are approved, and before long, thousands of people share it. The story grows from there, and soon the rumor feels like a fact. So if you've seen people saying that the payment is already approved, or that it will show up any day now, or that the IRS is holding it back, you're not imagining things. These claims are everywhere. But the problem is simple. None of the viral posts explain what was actually said by lawmakers or how the government really issues payments. And because those details are missing, the rumors tend to sound a lot more official than they really are. To be clear, the idea of a payment is real. Officials really are discussing it, but the online versions of the story skip over the actual process, the timeline, and the decisions that have to be made before anything can become law. And that's where so much of the confusion begins. Behind all those rumors, here's what is actually confirmed. Several members of Congress, including people on budget and finance committees, have mentioned that they are reviewing a new relief proposal. They've acknowledged that rising costs have put pressure on seniors, workers, and families. They've said they are exploring ways to help people who are struggling with everyday expenses like groceries, gas, rent, and medical bills. And yes, during these discussions, the number $2,000 has been mentioned more than once. Now, does that mean a $2,000 payment is approved? No. Does it mean the IRS is getting ready to send money out? Also no, but it does mean that a real proposal is being taken seriously. Committees are reviewing cost estimates. Lawmakers are debating which groups should qualify. Budget staff are looking at where funding could come from. These are early steps, but they are official steps. The important thing to remember is that proposals like this follow a long path. First, the idea is introduced. Then it is reviewed, revised, and debated. Committees check the cost. Lawmakers negotiate. Parties decide what they support or oppose, and only after all of that can a bill move to a vote. So when you hear officials mention relief, it's true. When you see social media posts saying the money is already approved, that part is not true. And this is where another important clarification comes in. The IRS cannot send anything until the law is finalized. So any talk about the IRS holding payments or delaying money on purpose is simply incorrect. The IRS only acts after Congress gives the green light. The relief idea is alive, it's active, it's on the table, but it is not finalized, and it is not funded yet. Understanding that helps set the stage for the bigger picture, why the payment isn't happening this year, and why the timing has nothing to do with IRS slowdowns. So why isn't the money coming this year? The answer is surprisingly straightforward once you understand how the federal government's timeline works. First, every major spending plan must be included in the federal budget, and this year, that budget was packed with other priorities: military spending, healthcare funding, Social Security adjustments, and negotiations on tax changes. With so many issues competing for space, adding a new relief package simply wasn't possible before the deadlines closed. Second, Congress doesn't meet every day. They work on a set schedule, and the number of days they're in session is actually quite limited. For most of this year, lawmakers were tied up in budget disputes and debates about avoiding a government shutdown. These issues take time, weeks, sometimes months. With so much attention on those urgent matters, there was little room left for a new relief bill. Third, the government's fiscal year ends on September 30th. Any proposal not ready before that cutoff automatically gets pushed into the next year's budget cycle. And that is exactly what happened with this relief idea. So the delay has nothing to do with the IRS, nothing to do with paperwork getting lost, and nothing to do with technical problems. It's simply a matter of timing, scheduling, and budget rules. The proposal exists. People are talking about it, but Congress hasn't voted on it. And without a vote, nothing happens. This brings us to the part most people rarely hear about: the political timing behind all of this. Now, this next part isn't about taking sides or pointing fingers. It's simply an explanation of how politics works, especially during election cycles. And understanding this will help everything make a lot more sense. Both major political parties want to appeal to voters. That's not a secret. It's just how elections operate. Seniors, low-income families, and working households make up a large part of the voting population, and they are also the groups who would benefit most from a relief payment. In situations like this, timing is everything. If relief goes out early in the year, people may appreciate it but move on quickly. Life goes back to normal and the moment passes. However, if relief is announced or delivered closer to election season, it tends to have a stronger impact. People remember it, they feel it, and it can influence opinions. This strategy isn't new. Both parties have used timing like this for decades. Whether it's rebates, tax credits, or stimulus payments, financial relief often gains momentum during election years. There's also another factor at play: negotiation power. Lawmakers don't usually approve major relief packages without getting something in return. Some want tax changes, others want spending cuts, some want new programs added. By waiting for the right moment, often during budget negotiations or election season, politicians gain more leverage to trade support for the things they want. And then there's the issue of public attention. Announcing a big payment too early means the excitement fades by the time votes matter. Announcing it later in the year creates momentum and visibility. Politicians know this. They use it, and it becomes part of their strategy. So when you hear that the $2,000 payment isn't coming this year, it's not because there's no interest. It's because the timing is being managed very carefully. This doesn't mean the relief won't happen. It simply means that the decision makers are aligning the proposal with moments that benefit them politically, not necessarily moments that match public needs. Once you understand that, the entire timeline becomes clearer, and it helps you understand what might happen next. So what does all this mean for you? Even though the payment isn't arriving this year, the proposal is far from dead. In fact, the discussions happening behind closed doors suggest the opposite. The idea is still alive, still being shaped, and still very much a possibility for next year. Let's talk about what matters most. If the plan moves forward, millions of people could qualify, including seniors on fixed incomes, low-income workers, disabled adults, Social Security beneficiaries, and families facing high inflation. These are the groups lawmakers most often mention when talking about relief. The $2,000 figure isn't random. It was chosen because it's enough to make a noticeable difference for struggling households, but still realistic within the federal budget if money is shifted from other areas. The timeline will depend entirely on when Congress approves a bill. Based on previous relief efforts, once a bill passes, the IRS can send payments fairly quickly, sometimes within weeks, because the systems used during past stimulus rounds are still in place. Another key point: there is nothing you need to do right now. You don't need to apply. You don't need to sign up. You don't need to click on ads or fill out forms. If the payment becomes law, eligibility will be determined automatically through existing government records like tax filings and Social Security data. Any post that tells you to reserve your spot or sign up today is not legitimate. So what this means for you is this. The idea hasn't been rejected, it hasn't disappeared, it's simply waiting for the right moment. That's why staying informed, not anxious, is the best thing you can do. Looking ahead, there are a few signs that will help you know whether this relief plan is gaining momentum. One sign is when congressional committees begin releasing public updates. That usually means the proposal is moving into more serious review stages. Another sign is changes to the federal budget. If the government starts adjusting the budget to make room for funding, that's a strong indicator that relief is becoming more likely. Public statements from key lawmakers also matter. When multiple officials begin discussing the same plan openly, it means support is building behind the scenes. A draft bill is one of the biggest signals. When a draft appears, it outlines who qualifies, how much money is included, and how it will be funded. Election season is another milestone to watch. Relief discussions often pick up speed as campaigns intensify. You may also hear updates from the IRS, not because they're delaying anything, but because they typically announce when their systems are ready to distribute payments. That only happens when a bill is getting close to passing. And finally, pay attention to negotiation news. If you start seeing headlines that lawmakers are trading support for tax changes or budget items, the relief plan might be part of those discussions. All of these signs together help paint a picture of where things stand and what might be coming next. Now, before we finish today, I want to speak to you directly, especially those of you who have been feeling stressed, frustrated, or unsure about what to believe. If you're still watching, it means you're looking for clear information, not rumors. And you deserve that. The last few years have been financially challenging for so many households, especially seniors, disabled adults, and families living on fixed incomes. Prices have gone up everywhere. At the store, at the gas pump, in medical bills, and it's completely understandable to feel overwhelmed or hopeful for relief. The goal of this breakdown wasn't to create false hope. It was to give you a clear picture of what's real, what's possible, and why things are moving the way they are. The truth is this: a major relief plan is being discussed. The $2,000 figure is part of those discussions. Millions of Americans could benefit if it becomes law. The timing is influenced by politics, not by IRS delays. And the proposal is still alive, not forgotten, not rejected, not abandoned. I'll continue watching this story closely and bringing you updates in clear, simple language so you always know what's actually happening. Without the drama, without the fear, and without the rumors. You're not alone in this. You're not the only one trying to make sense of the information out there, and you're not powerless. Staying informed helps you protect your finances and prepare for whatever comes next. If this explanation helped you, feel free to like the video, share it with someone who needs clarity, and subscribe so you don't miss future updates. I appreciate each one of you for being here and for trusting me to help you stay informed. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next update.